Hey class, I was asked to do a video on reading and writing from files, text and CSV format, so let's get started. First of all, let's take a look at the open function because I think that's the most important thing to understand what that's doing. So we're going to, first of all, let's see. Oh, actually, what we really need to begin with is making sure that we're in the right directory. So right now, new consoles open up at this directory here. And so I can click this button to browse to wherever I want them to open up in the future. So let's say I want them to open up in Lecture 8 video, which is exactly where I was. And so then I can go up to the top of the screen. I guess you can't see this, but console connect open an IPython console. And this new console will open up in this directory. So any files that I open, I'm opening from this directory. Any files that I save will save to this directory. So that's how you can make sure that you're gonna go to the right place. So let's open up a file for writing. Let's just do it at the command line. And we use the open command. I'm just going to show you that there's no file by that name. There's untitled 0.py, which is the file I'm working with in the editor right here. But I'm going to create a file called myfile.txt for writing. So I put a W, and then I say f.write and whatever I want to write. And now you can see that it has created a file, and you don't see anything in the file yet. It's created the file, but it hasn't put anything in it yet. That's the preview. Even if I open up the file like this, you can see that it's empty, and that's because I haven't closed it yet. So f.close. Now when I go back to the file, there we go. It says hello world, as you can see. Alright, so you need to remember to close your files, or what I find to be even better is you can use the syntax with open myfile.txt as f. So instead of saving open the reference to this file object to f, we use this syntax. It puts the open file object in f, and then it allows us to do whatever we want with it. f.write hello world 2. And when we finish that, we can see that it's already changed the file. It actually overwrote the file. So that's an important thing to know about the opening a file for writing with that letter W, is that it will overwrite whatever contents are already in there. But it automatically closes it for you, so that's nice to know. Just so you can see that f is a file object, I mentioned that, but we can print out what f is. That's not going to print the file itself, it's going to print a representation of the file object. This is a closed file because we use this with syntax. It automatically closes the file. It tells you the file name, the mode that it was supposed to be open at, etc. So that'll tell you some additional information if you want to check if your file is open or closed or not. All right, so let's go ahead and let's see. I guess we just let's read. Okay, so with open myfile.txt, we'll open it for reading as f. We can name it, of course, whatever we want. f.read. Call that function. We'll save whatever the result is in this variable x. Print x. Cool. Let's open a file for appending. So I'll open the file same way, except instead of W, I write A, and we're going to see now we can f.write hello world again, and this is not going to overwrite the file. This is going to append to the file. Now notice it doesn't put that new line character in there for you, so if we wanted a new line in between, we would have to make sure we put a new line character in with that special syntax there. This character is called an escape character. The backslash indicates that the n is not to be interpreted literally. This is to be interpreted as one unit as a new line. Oops. Execute that. And there we go. You can see that it wrote that to the file. Let's try reading this now. We'll read it all in. We can go open it for reading. And let's see what X is. All right, and so when we get that string, it represents this /n as a new line character again. So keep that in mind. It's not going to print out exactly how you might want it formatted nicely. It's good for editing. All right, let's take a look at creating a CSV file. So if we wanted to create a CSV file, we have to first have some data. And CSV is a table. It's got rows and columns. And so a simple way to represent this is a list of lists. So we're going to have the outer list, and then inner list will contain our contents of each row. So the first row will have 1 in the first column and hello in the second column. The second row will have 2 in the first column and goodbye in the second column. And the third row, we can create as many rows and columns as we want this way. Third row is going to have 3 and the word what in there. All right, so that's our X. Let's go ahead and write this to a file in CSV format, because if we saved it as text, it would be hard to load it back in as a list. We'd have to process it ourselves. We'd have to pick everything apart at the commas that we wrote it out to, and it would just be more difficult. So let's save it in a special format so that we can load it back into Python and have it as a list that we can edit. So we would be able to edit the 0th row, the first column. We'd be able to set that to some other number if we wanted to. So let's save it so that we can edit it. So we're going to import CSV, and then we are going to go ahead and open a file with my CSV. Open my CSV for writing. So same syntax as before, but this time we need to create a file writer object, or a CSV writer, and save that to a reference. We're creating an object that is able to write to the file F. So you see how this CSV.writer takes in a file object. So we're providing F, the file object, and constructing this writer object out of it. And then for every row that we have in our list X, so for every sublist, we are going to call the write row function of W, and it's going to write the row to the file. So let's see, looks like we have created mycsv.csv. And if we open it in Microsoft Excel, this is what it looks like. Let's go ahead and change it. And we'll save that. Let's get out of this. We'll see if those changes stuck. So yep, we changed that to 1. Cool. Now let's load it back in. So now we do basically the same thing in reverse. We open it up for writing. And we create a reader object with the file object in as to construct the reader out of. So it's going to read from F. And then for every row in the reader, R is now an iterable thing. We can just save whatever that is. So we can, let's say we'll print it out. So R, this reader object is directly iterable. We don't have to call a read function on the file. Just by creating the reader, it's basically, you can think of it as loading the entire file into R, but really R is just going to get one row at a time. Every row in R, it's going to get it for us, and we can print it out. There we go. Or if we wanted to do something with it, let's copy and paste that. So let's create some empty list Y, and every time instead of printing it, we will append it to Y. And so now Y is that list. And so it's convenient because now this isn't something we can change. We can edit the second column, so, or excuse me, the second row, let's say. So we put in Y1. That gets out the row for us. And then we can access the second element of that. And we can change that to that. And then we could save this to the file again. So it's useful sometimes for when you're working with data and you want to save it for later, and then be able to open it up again and access it in the same format.